Hey there, everybody. We're going to get started here in just a moment. So, just want to give everybody a chance to dive in and join us. So, if you are joining us for the first time, just a quick reminder that you want to make sure you have all streaming devices turned off, that you've only got the minimum number of things turned on that you need right now. So that means make sure you've got Zoom going, but turn off Spotify, Netflix, Google Drive, any of those other streaming devices that might minimize your bandwidth. So make sure all of that other stuff is off so that you can have the maximum viewing experience. If for any reason you lose the connection, log off and log back in, and that'll usually take care of it. And if you're like me and you frequently have 57 tabs open, guess what? You need to close those now. So close that down, turn all those other things off, and we're going to dive right on in because we're going to talk today about one of my favorite topics, which is some of the different alternatives and the different options we have as artists to create our own income streams. So if you have a question that you know you want to ask, go ahead and type it into the chat roll right now so that you can be sure to get it answered. Then if anything comes up during the course of the webinar, of the training, you can type your question in then. In other words, don't wait to type your question in because you're liable to forget what you want to ask between the time you think of the question and the time we come to a point where I can stop and ask questions. That said, if there's a great question that comes up while I'm in the middle of running my mouth, I'm going to stop and holler at you and let you know what the answer is. So go ahead and type that in. And if you are here with us live, I see a bunch of people who are here. Go ahead and type a comment into the chat roll so that we know who's here and we can make sure all systems are go. So I'm going to go on and get started because we are just a few minutes after 1 and I've got a lot to cover today and I don't want to skip anything. So let's dive right on into the presentation here, and I'm going to make sure I have the chat roll open at the same time. So, hey CL, so that I can see any questions that come in. So we're going to be talking today about designing your own success path. And if you've listened to anything that I've been saying online in the last probably 2-3 months, one of the primary topics that I've been talking about is choice, that we get to choose, that there are multiple ways to become a successful artist out there. We get to define success for ourselves, and we get to set up how it is that we're going to get there. So today's topic is a little narrower in that we're going to talk about some of those different ways that we can achieve success, some different income streams that are options out there. Some you're probably familiar with, and some I'm not sure that you've ever thought of before. In fact, I can almost guarantee at least 2 or 3 of these are things you have not thought about. Keep in mind, these are only 7. There are many, many more. And to be honest, I've got more than 7 on here because there's some that I just could not leave out. So I've got a bonus 1 or 2 in here. So we're going to have multiple options that we're going to go over. And I want you to take some notes. I've got a handout for you to download later to help spark your ideas and get you going on the right direction. But let's dive right on in. One of the most pervasive ideas that I hear over and over and over again is the idea that you can't make a living at art. It's one of the most persistent myths that are out there. We've all probably been told that at one time or another, and probably most often by the people who are near and dear to us. But the truth is, you don't have to suffer to make good art, and you absolutely can make a living from it. What you decide is the right path for you is going to be really individual, and it's not going to be the same for any 2 people. But if you don't take anything else away today, I want to remind you, you can make a living. It's your choice. How you define success, whether it's a living or impact in any way, shape, or form is completely up to you. We get to choose. So the idea that you can't make a living at art is just not true. It really never has been, but it's particularly not true now. The old art world that many of us grew up with, it's gone. The one that only had two potential income streams, two potential ways to survive as an artist. So y'all probably have heard those two ways before. They are teach or get gallery representation. Really only two choices. You either taught or you got gallery representation, or you were lucky and did both. Not many people could survive and thrive off of just one of those. Most people had to combine them in some way, shape, or form. They are great income streams, don't get me wrong, but I just want y'all to realize they are not the only ones. There are many more out there. And what makes those possible is that we no longer have gatekeepers that decide which one of those avenues we should take. And what do I mean by gatekeepers? I mean, those are the people who rubber stamp the path that we're going to take. So back when those two paths were the only ones, gallery representation and teaching, to become a successful artist, there were exceptions, but pretty much the choices were to teach or to get gallery representation. The gatekeepers were the people who gave you the degree, said that you had the credentials to go teach, or the gallery owners who decided to take you on. And in those particular times, there were no other ways, really, for artists to access collectors, to directly engage with an audience. The gallery owners were the only way. There was really not another viable way to teach other than getting teaching credentials to go out to earn an income. If you didn't have either one of those, you couldn't sustain your livelihood. Not true anymore. So there are multiple ways even to do those two things. So let's look at the first one, gallery representation. I am not knocking gallery representation at all. I have gallery representation and have for almost 30 years with different galleries. But the days where you had to have 3 or 4 galleries that were representing you and really pushing your work in order to survive are gone. The Great Recession did that in. Great disruptor. So things would have changed just with the presence of online sales, but the Great Recession really dramatically sped that up. Galleries closed all over the world. Here in the US, 2/3 of them gone, almost overnight. So the galleries that were left are lean, mean selling machines. That means the ones that are left, for the most part, know what they're doing. They're good. And they know how to partner with artists instead of being the gatekeepers up here. So galleries aren't the gatekeepers anymore. And I've heard many people, both in the free group and even in here, talk about gallery owners as if they hold the key to the kingdom. They don't. And they are not out there trying to hold you back. It is not that hard to get representation if it's what you want to do. So we're going to talk about some of those ways you can get started on that in just a few minutes. But I want you to realize that gallery representation is still a very viable option. And it doesn't mean you have to close down those other avenues, those other channels and income streams. Most galleries are quite willing to work with you on developing a plan and a package that's going to be right for you and be a win-win for both of you. So there are a lot of different ways you can structure gallery representation, between having works on consignment there, participating in group exhibitions, having solo exhibitions, having exclusive representation. And that's going to be a whole nother webinar in and of itself, how to deal with galleries. But there are many different ways you can structure that so that it will work for you. The second of those traditional paths, Make sure I have both of those showing now. Yeah, there it goes. Is teaching. So teaching, time-honored tradition. And I want you to get the idea out of your head that people who teach are those who can't sell, because that's not true, never was true, and it's a bunch of BS. Teaching is a perfectly honorable profession, and in fact, you will become a better painter for teaching. Why? Because you have to become so much clearer in what it is that you want to do and how you do it. That will drive your own painting practice forward. So traditionally, you had to get those credentials to go teach, to earn enough money to really sustain yourself. Not true anymore. What you need to do now is to build your reputation as an expert in your field, and you can do that through an online presence. And then decide what format you want to teach in. Do you want to do live classes or workshops? Do you want to teach online? Do you want to teach online with live classes or workshops? Or do you want to teach asynchronously, which means you have to record your lessons so that your students can work through them whether you're online or not? Then you can also, as another aid to teaching, create educational videos that are again available for download. That's sort of a passive, what we call a passive income stream. So teaching can take all kinds of formats, and it no longer requires that you have teaching credentials. You don't need to go get an MFA to be a successful teacher today. Instead, you need to know your subject, and you need to be just a little bit ahead of where your students are. So you don't need to be Leonardo da Vinci. You just need to be 3 steps ahead of those who want to learn. In fact, some of the best teachers for beginners are people who have just progressed to that intermediary stage, where the questions and concerns of beginners are still fresh in their minds. So don't discount teaching because you don't have credentials, or you haven't been painting that long, or you really don't know how to put it together online. There are ways to construct that so that it's an easy, doable thing for you. A third way that you can make an income is by self-representation. Fancy way of saying sell your work yourself. And again, just like all the others, there are so many different forms that can take. It does not have to include an online presence, but boy, do I strongly recommend it. So you can sell straight out of your studio. And a number of y'all have done that already. You can have open studios and periodically and invite people in. You can have regular open hours for your studio where people can shop. You can sell online on your website directly. You can sell even if you don't have a website on social media like Instagram or Facebook. The basics that you need to get started with selling your work yourself are your cell phone and social media apps and good artwork. That's it. You don't have to have fancy tech, so don't let the tech stop you. Super simple approaches work the best. So one of my favorite phrases is KISS. I don't mean it the way a lot of people talk about it. Keep it stupid simple. So when you get started selling your work yourself, do it in the simplest way possible. I really think one of the best ways to start is to sell it live out of your studio, where you have a chance to talk with a small group of people and get really used to talking about your art so that it's not as intimidating when you sell online. So think about that as a way to get started. Next, another one of my favorites, grants from foundations and nonprofits. A lot of people don't think about the nonprofit world as an avenue or an income stream. It's really not that much different than selling your work. But if you are not interested in sales, this might be the income stream for you. You can still create a sustainable painting practice, a sustainable art practice, simply through learning how to write grants for residencies for exhibitions at nonprofit spaces, and obtain funding from foundations and nonprofit sources like state grant arts agencies, local arts agencies, even national arts agencies and foundations. The money is out there. It's out there almost everywhere, no matter where you live. And that money is there to help you build a body of work, to exhibit in regular traditional spaces and non-traditional spaces. It's there to travel and get education around your art to make your practice stronger. And the reason why nonprofits are interested in that is it's good for the economy. The numbers back up just how good for the economy it is. When we have strong arts nonprofits, we have strong cultural economies, and they bring in dollars and they bring in industry. So don't think of this as a way to kind of bow out of the art market. It's a different kind of art market. And it really takes similar skills to the ones that go into traditional gallery representation, teaching, or self-representation. Getting a grant means that you need to write a proposal, a project proposal. And I love teaching people how to work around projects anyway. It means you're going to create a series in some way, shape, or form. And you're going to talk about why it's important to you and what kind of impact you want to have. So again, just like getting a gallery, this can be a topic later for an entire presentation, but I want to whet your appetite for the idea that you can get funding for the projects that you want to do. You don't have to sell your work. You can have an impact in a way that doesn't cost your viewers anything. Instead, foundations and nonprofits will help sponsor you. So it is entirely possible to make a sustainable income just around that one income stream. So think about grants, think about nonprofits, think about residencies and exhibitions that can help you have an impact on the world around you. Then when we look at the next one, another one that's really underutilized and closely related to grants is public art. Now, this is one that's really near and dear to my heart because I worked as a public arts manager for the city that I lived in for 5 years. So I am intimately acquainted with the whole process of applying for public art and just how big a need there is out there for it. We always struggled to find artists who were aware of and interested in doing public art. So we actively recruited artists. I think that's true of every public art program that I'm aware of. There are public art programs in every single state in the United States, in every province and territory in Canada, and in every country in the EU and the UK. In fact, there are public art programs in almost every country around the world. So don't count that out as a possibility. Also, don't count it out if you're a painter. Murals are a major source of income for a lot of artists, and there are very few artists out there who are thinking about that as an income stream. In fact, public art is extraordinarily lucrative when you are careful about how you structure your proposals. So, strongly recommend that you explore public art as a potential outlet and income stream for your work. There is a public art program out there for every single medium that there is. So in my years of recruiting public art for the area here, we commission pieces by fiber artists, by knitters, bet you didn't think about that one, painters, sculptors, printmakers, videographers, photographers, every single medium that is known, we commissioned art around it. And it went into places like public libraries on the sides of municipal buildings, within shopping areas, urban areas, on the sides of private buildings as well. So there are plenty of different opportunities out there. It doesn't have to be the monumental sculpture that most of us associate with public art. Definitely a viable income stream for so many of you. Prints and reproductions. This is a pretty traditional income stream that I'm pretty sure most of y'all have thought about at one time or another. And I think it's a really good one for most people to consider, whether they're working in 3D or 2D. If you're working in 3D, you can have high resolution, high quality photos taken of your sculptures, and you can make reproductions and posters of those and market those as a entry-level product line that gets people introduced to what you make. Same for almost any other kind of work out there. Think about editions, limited editions, and reproductions. So if you're a sculptor, you could make a small piece and make a casting of it and make a limited edition run of that small sculpture. Do the same for jewelry or ceramics. It is possible to do in every single medium that there is. So you can market these in a variety of different ways, just like the other income streams we've talked about. There's a path or a channel to distribute those that will fit your personality. So you have to figure out what's right for you. I personally do not make limited edition prints or reproductions of my artwork. Instead, I make posters and call them that. But I think people have to find what that right niche is for themselves. We're going to talk about how to do that in just a minute. So think about reproductions. I don't recommend that people print them at home. The cost of maintaining a high quality printer is really high, even for a small one. It doesn't make good economic sense. You're not going to get a good return on investment if you do that, unless you're really making an extraordinary number of prints. I would recommend instead that you go to a company like Printful or to ImageKind or Zazzle and have your reproductions created there, where you can control the quality. All three of those are high quality. You can control the scale, the size, the paper, the output, and you don't have to bear the cost of maintaining that equipment. They can ship directly from those particular sites, and because places like Printful have European distribution spots as well as North American ones, actually the shipping is simply not that expensive. It's really kind of surprisingly low. So look into that as an option. If you want to get more details on those printers, those sources, go look at the holiday promotions training here in the membership, because we've got lots of information on reproductions and prints within that training, because that's a good chunk of what we were looking at doing. So a very viable income stream. So here we're coming to number 7, product merchandise design. And there's a reason why I've kind of grouped these this way. You'll notice that the first 5 really talk about original art. I'm talking about the actual individual objects. These last ones are going to talk about, or are talking about, reproductions, about limited editions, and about more passive income and mass marketing. So what I mean by product and merchandise design is what's usually euphemistically called merch. Merch is just the product that you have put your image on. And artists can approach this in a variety of different ways. You can go all the way from a tote bag to a rug to fabric. It can take the range of a low ticket item to a high ticket item. That choice is up to you. So your merchandise design, your product designs don't have to be limited to the ubiquitous coffee mug or tote bag. You can go further with that, and you can charge high-end prices for that if that's what you want to do. I know of one artist at least who has a subscription service around product and merchandise design. She's created a line of merchandise, of products that are in a limited edition, and they are only available through her subscription service. And she only takes, I think it's 250 subscribers a year. She charges $500 a year for this limited edition product design run. So they're 4 times a year, and people get things that range from pillows, well-designed pillows with her images on there, trays with her images on there, and other similar kind of merchandise. So you can charge a lot, or you can charge less. Yeah, as Kate says, she says, I know an artist who's done well with her mugs, and it leads people to her paintings. Absolutely it does. I think incorporating one of these lower price point, more passive income, bigger quantity merchandising lines into what you're doing is a really smart move, because this is a price point a lot of times that people can enter at and then go to your originals. But I also want you to think about that it doesn't have to be the low-end price point. It can be a high-end price point as well. And that's true for every last one of these income streams that we're talking about. So those same places that do print editions like Reproductions can also do merchandise. So ImageKind, Zazzle, and Printful can all print your designs onto high-quality tote bags, mugs, pillows, and all sorts of other designs, including clothing. And it's not very hard to do. Then there are other companies that will take your design and create a bigger template to make fabric, to do a whole run of fabric around your designs. So the options are really unlimited around the idea of product and merchandise design. So get your juices flowing around that and think about how you could begin to incorporate some of that, a line like that, into your income streams so that it feeds your artwork, and it can be either at the low end or the high end or even both, but definite options. Then my bonus number 8, because I just can't leave it out, is licensing. So licensing also deals with multiples and with making copies of, in some way, shape, or form, your original art. Licensing deals can be gotten 2 different ways. You can recruit and propose yourself to licensing companies, or you can get found by them because they're actively out there recruiting artists. This is a reason to have a website. If you have a website and post regularly on social media, you have a much greater chance of being found by any of the above, by traditional galleries, by foundations and nonprofits, by public art programs, and by licensing agencies. That's how I got my licensing agreement. They found me. I didn't go looking for them. The way to do that is to show up regularly. So again, we could spend a whole period talking just about licensing, but think about it as an option, and it does not have to be overwhelming. What you want, one of the keys to it, and I think one of the most important points, is you do not sign away your copyright to your images. You license or give them the right to make copies of it, but you retain the ultimate copyright. That's the key factor. And what I had built into my licensing agreement was not only that, but that I could make reproductions of those same images and sell them myself. So don't give away your rights. I know a number of people who made licensing agreements with either print houses or with merchandise product design houses. And a couple of them gave away their rights to some of those product merchandise design companies and regretted it later. So don't do that. Don't be lured into thinking this is the only way to get an agreement. It's not. So keep your copyright. Always, always retain that. And keep in mind, oops, I did have another one. I knew I had an extra one in there. I could not leave out subscriptions. So I mentioned earlier the artist who has a subscription service to her product designs. You could think about a subscription service to any of the products above, your original art, to reproductions, to product designs, and actually even licensing can be a subscription service as well. So what I mean by a subscription service is that somebody signs up and gets something from you on a regular basis, whether it's monthly, quarterly, or annually. And artists have used this to fund acquiring new equipment, to create a monthly income stream through something like Patreon, or to create their own subscription service like Ashley Longshore does through her own website. So multiple ways to do it. And I wanted to just tease that a little bit so that you'll think about the idea that there are way more channels to distribute your income streams than you might have thought about. But at the heart of it, all of it is based on your making art. So make sure you get in there and make art. Then everything else will follow. So I mentioned that one of the other things that we were going to talk about today are the 3 key pieces of a viable path. So how to know whether something you're looking at doing that might not be on that list, because everything on that list that I just gave you is viable. But if you're looking at some new idea, or you've gotten really creative in there, and you want to have a way of identifying whether or not it's viable, in other words, whether or not it's going to be able to produce any income or have any impact, then I want you to think about these 3 things. You need to have an idea that has a sweet spot that meets right in here in the center, where all 3 of these things overlap. You need to have an audience with a passion for the thing that you're offering. They've got to really want it, they've got to have desire, and they've got to love it. You've got to have a passion for it, because if you don't, your audience will pick up on it and they will not be emotionally engaged by you. The third thing is that audience has to have the ability to pay. So if you are trying to appeal to 15-year-olds who love horses to sell your high-end paintings of horses, you both share a passion for horses, but those 15-year-olds do not have the ability to pay for those paintings of horses. You need an audience that not only has the passion, but has the ability to pay. So you got to have all 3 things there. And you want to explore any path you're looking at taking to make sure that it has all 3 of those things. Anytime you're thinking about implementing one of the ones that we've gone over today, make sure that the way you're implementing it aligns with having these 3 key pieces. That means that while the path may be really viable, there may be an audience out there for those things, you may have a passion for it, you need to make sure that the audience you're targeting has the ability to pay. So think of that as a checklist to go through when you are looking at the viability of a new income stream. Then there are several other things that you need to check on to make sure that it's going to work for you, because there are lots and lots of different income streams out there. There are lots of different success paths. You cannot do them all at one time. You need to focus. And you need to focus on your zone of genius. So what I mean by that is, again, an intersecting point between 4 different factors. Because if any one of these is off, you are not going to be productive in pursuing this income stream. You're not going to be productive in whatever it is that you've set out to achieve, no matter whether it's in art or anything else. So let's look at these for a minute. The first is your skill level. You've got to have the skills that it takes excuse me, to pull off the creation of the work, the offer that you're going to make. So if you don't have the skills, you need to develop them. Then the next thing that you need to watch is that you love it, that you have a passion for it. Remember that people don't buy because of their rational thought processes. They buy or they become converted to followers or collectors, or you're going to have an impact on them through connecting to their emotions. And their emotions are going to be triggered by your emotions. And if you're not in love with what you're doing, people will pick up on that. The third thing is there needs to be a need. People got to want it. So people got to need it. They've got to have that emotional need. They can have the physical need, they can have the intellectual need, but if that emotional need is not there, it ain't going to work. So make sure there is an emotional need and a desire for what it is that you want to do. Last but not least, going back to that factor of willingness and ability to pay. So people have to be willing to give you money, whether that's through grants or through paying directly for the artwork or through signing up for a course. They've got to be willing to pay for what you've got on tap. So not only do they need to need it, but they've got to be willing to pay for that need. And if you convince people enough and connect to them emotionally, then you will find a group of people who are willing to pay. So those 4 things again are your skills, your passion, a need, and a willingness to pay. If you follow through on all 4 of those, then you can be pretty sure that you can put together a package of income streams that are going to make you a sustainable painting practice or a sustainable art practice. So I want you to take action. I don't want you just to listen to the video or go back and listen to the replay. I want y'all to do something based on what we've talked about today. So here's how you take action. Pick your top 3 income streams from that list we went over. Pick the 3 that resonate the most with you. Don't overthink it. Just go with your feeling. What feels like it would be interesting to you, that would be in alignment with your core why, with your drivers. Then I want you to find an example of an artist who's doing that. And here's why. We do so much better when we find somebody who's just in front of us. They don't even have to know that they're our mentor, but they become our mentors and they lead by example. If we know somebody else has done it, then it becomes possible for us. So I want you to, after you pick your top 3 income streams, to Google those income streams and add the word artist to the end of that search so that you can find artists who are doing that. They don't have to be making work just like yours, but they do have to be pursuing a path like the ones you want to go down. Then put those ideas through the filter of the zone of genius. Does it align with what you love? Does it align with your skills? Is there an audience out there that's willing to pay for it? Is there a perceived need? If any one of those is missing, you either need to plug that hole or that gap, or you need to go to a different income stream. So then I want you to think about the one that is the most in alignment. Pick the one that's most in alignment. You can't juggle more than one thing at a time. The idea that we can multitask is a myth. We really cannot do that. You need to do one thing at a time and do it well, and then pick up the second thing. So get that first income stream going, and it does not have to be perfect. Remember, done is better than perfect, and start before you're ready. So get started now, and the first step is picking it, because that's setting in an intention, and it moves you along that path, and it's your first baby step towards success. And last but not least, I want you to remember always that art is at the heart of whatever success path you choose. So if you're not making art, if in any way the path you've chosen blocks your ability to create, back up, realign, because it means you're out of alignment if that happens. You need to keep your practice of art making at the heart and at the center of whatever it is that you're using to define success. If you ever reach that point where it feels out of alignment, you need to ask yourself two things. First, are you afraid because you're growing? Because 99.99% of the time, if we're taking a big leap and making the stretches that we need to make as human beings, it'll bring up fear of failure. So if you're experiencing fear of failure, ask yourself if it's real, or if it's just because you're taking the next baby step towards a new idea. You've got growing pains and you're in the messy middle. Keep that art at the heart. And if you do that and you show up on a regular basis, you work on creating an engaged audience, all those other pieces will fall into place. So I want to make sure you follow through on these action steps. And I'm going to post them with the replay, as well as a freebie that I want y'all to download that is the Painter's Path Success Roadmap. In that roadmap, it goes through the steps, no matter which path to success you've chosen, which income stream you've chosen, the path that you need to take in order to achieve success in that path. Because the steps are the same, whether you're talking about finding gallery representation or self-representing or writing a grant proposal or making public art or any of those others. The process is the same. The ultimate outcome will be a little bit different. The process will have different nuances, but the overall process is the same. And once you've done it one time, it gets so much easier to do it a second, a third time. And the reason I want people to have 3 different income streams in the end is that you have a much more sustainable career when you do that. When you've got 3 income streams that are sustainable, you've got that 3-legged stool I've talked about so much that is almost impossible to turn over. So if one income stream dips, the other 2 are there to sustain you. And you can always tweak and navigate the kind of rocky road that can be out there. Keep in mind that you're not in any more danger when you are self-employed, or if you've got a side gig doing these things, than you are when you're an employee. In actual truth, you're a lot safer because you have control and you have the ability to choose. So, what are you going to choose? Which ones are in alignment with you? Which way are you going to go? Which income stream is the right path for you? I want to see what people's thoughts are on this over the rest of the month. And I want you to share your ideas here in the membership, because one of the things that I know is true is that there's strength in numbers. And when we go forward together, we go forward further. So there is no competition. The entire world is our market, not just our local collectors. So there is nothing to lose by sharing your ideas here in the membership. Cone of silence, nobody's going to share your stuff to the rest of the world. Keep that in mind. Honor each other, but also support each other, because you'll go further faster if you bounce your ideas off of the community and you use the community to stay accountable and take action. So we're going to be pestering everybody, me, Stephanie, and Carson, over the rest of the month about what you're doing to take action on the things that we've covered today. So we've got just a few minutes, about 5 minutes left here. Oops, I knew I was going to leave off some of those things. And I'm going to stop it right here where you can see those action steps, because I want to really emphasize those. And if you've got any questions or ideas that have come up from the training today, pop those into the chat roll, and I'll be happy to answer those. I love myself the idea of mugs, Kate, and I think people write them off all too often as being just merch. And I want everybody to be challenged to think of things that we normally think of as low end in a different way. I want us to think about those entry level points as ways to get paid to advertise our work. So just like your friend who's finding that people are led to her paintings through those entry level products, I want you to think about when you sell a mug, when you sell a pillow, when you sell a tote, that you are selling advertising for free. You're getting paid to advertise your work, whether it's note cards or pillows or tote bags or any of those other things. How you create them can be tastefully done. You don't need to fill the work with more tchotchke stuff, but it doesn't have to be tchotchke. So there's no reason for it to be that. You can make high quality works on any of those kinds of products. Absolutely. Yes, Christine, we all need more confidence, but confidence doesn't come by waiting for it to tap you on the head. Confidence comes from taking the risk of stepping out there and realizing that there is no failure. Failure happens when you never take a risk, not when you take a risk and it doesn't work out, because we learn from every last one of those. And not choosing to take a step is a choice as well. And not choosing to take a step means we stay stuck right where we are. So think about which one of those income streams is going to be appropriate for where you are right now. And think about how you can create an impact in the world. Because ultimately, that's the reason we're here as artists. We're here to have an impact on the people who look at our work, whether we're being paid for it or whether we are delivering it in a different way, like through residencies, like through nonprofit exhibitions. There's a right way for every last one of us out there. We just need to get started. So who's got an idea of one of those income streams that they're interested in right now? Type that income stream into the chat roll. Let us know that you're going to take a first step. It doesn't have to be the one that you end up with as the one that's most in alignment. But everybody who's on live, type in an income stream that feels like it would be a good connection or fit for you. Let us know which ones feel like they might work, because that's the only way to begin to make a step. Actually typing that in is the first baby step. So I want everybody to take a baby step. One of the steps that I'm going to take in the near future is going down that road of looking at product and merchandise design, because it's one I haven't done in the past, and it's one that I can see a lot of potential in. And here's another side to the product merchandise design or the reproductions and prints idea, is that you have the opportunity with those multiples to reach a bigger audience, a wider audience, to reach people who might not be able to afford to buy your original things. So if you're interested in impact, which I think at the heart all of us are, look at those in particular. Make sure you've got one that deals with multiples on your list of 3, so that you have a way to get out there and have a broader impact. CL says one thing she's done in the past is to use Society 6 for marketing several different products with her artwork on it. Yeah, Society 6 is a great resource. Everything is print on demand, so there's no cost to produce items, and you get paid once things are purchased. They have great customer service and quick delivery times. See, there's another one besides Printful. So Society 6 is one of the most well-known of those print houses. And it's just like Printful in that it's got a really strong reputation. It can deliver across the world. I believe it can deliver in the UK and in Europe. And it is easy to work with. In both of those cases, you get to decide how much of a profit you want to make. So you're in complete control. You get to decide which products you're going to approach. You can think about whether you want to have them always available on your website, available through a store on one of those sites, or do the subscription service. I'm kind of thinking I may do the subscription service like Ashley Longshore does. So there are tons of options out there. As CL says, they'll also do duvet covers and duvet. I can't talk today. Wall clocks, cell phone cases, all kinds of other things. And really good places will do that. So remember, you don't have to set up a shop on those sites. You can hide the shop so it's not public, and you can sell them off of your website and have them printed on demand and delivered to your clients without your ever having to touch the product. That's one of the advantages of those places. Kate says, I already have prints, including prices, on her website. Yay! I knew you were working on that. She says, but I don't have a following, so I'm starting with Instagram today. I'm not ready to do Facebook business. I highly recommend Instagram. It is a natural fit, just like Pinterest, for those of us who are artists. And one of the ways to really build a following on Instagram is through engagement. So ask questions, treat it like it's a personal feed in the sense that you're conversational with them so that you are building up a following who's used to talking to you, and invite them to talk to you through private message on Instagram. People take action when you do that. So I've had a lot of good success with Instagram. I'm actually launching a body of work right now on Instagram. It goes on sale next Monday, I think it is. So you're welcome to follow that along on that. And I'm just using Instagram and email for that. So it doesn't have to be super high tech at all. Highly recommend that. Then Kate says, she's not going to do Facebook. You don't have to do Facebook yet. And Instagram will actually integrate with an app called Shopify. And there is a low price version of Shopify so that you can sell literally straight off of Instagram. So there are all kinds of ways to do it. Adriana says, I do some self-representation as well as prints on cards, magnets, and mounted on wood blocks. Those are great outlets. She says, I want to get into writing and illustrating children's books. Great idea. So illustration is one of the income streams I didn't put on the list. But it's definitely one worth thinking about. A lot of people think about illustration as being a field, an income stream that's dried up, and that's not totally true. Illustration as a traditional pursuit where people are called or commissioned to make handmade paintings or drawings to go into magazines, books, and print media, that has dried up. But illustration as an opportunity for you to license your existing artwork and to create your own print media is thriving. So you can absolutely pursue that. And Vicki, yes, you can sell off of Facebook just like you can on any other social media by either sending people to your website or asking them to message you in your messages if they want the piece. And then you can send them an invoice. Yes. Definitely, Beverly, work on that self-representation. I'm a big fan of that. I do that. I do gallery representation. I do licensing. And I've done almost all of and I do grant proposals as well. Almost all of those at one time or another. So get 3 going, everybody. Those are all viable ideas. They're all great ideas. And I look forward to seeing what you're going to do with it. Yes, CL has a great suggestion here, and I'm getting ready to set up Wave as well. Wave Accounting is a free accounting system, and they handle and will record your income you can actually bill through Wave as well, but they handle all the major credit cards. So there are lots and lots of different ways to pursue this. And you can link Wave to PayPal. You can link Wave to Stripe. You can link Wave to all kinds of different payment gateways. So the world is our oyster right now. What are you going to do with it? Don't sit on the sidelines. Make a choice. Pick one, share it in the membership so that we can all pull each other forward. Absolutely. I think you can link Square to Wave. Absolutely. And almost all, Wave will then record your transactions just as the accounting program. So, yeah, I use PayPal, I use Square, I use Stripe. All of those are payment gateways that are pretty much consistent in how much they cost. They take 2.9% roughly and about 30 cents on each transaction. That's the standard for online gateways. So any of those are viable. Any and all of those are viable so that you can take credit cards. So have at it, y'all, and let us know how you're doing. Any questions that you have that come up, share those in the group, and let's walk forward together and take those baby steps now. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye for now, and happy painting. Get out there and make some choices, take some actions.